Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The history of Israel's 12 tribes has always fascinated scholars, believers, and seekers of ancient truth. Each tribe carried its own unique destiny, some flourishing into kingdoms and others fading into obscurity. Among these, the story of Simeon stands out, not because of greatness, but because of its strange disappearance from the stage of history. What begins in Genesis as a tribe full of fury and zeal ends in a shadowy erasure, scattered across the territories of Judah and eventually absorbed into silence. The fate of Simeon is not just an ancient curiosity. It reveals how biblical history carried forward stories of betrayal, punishment, and assimilation, echoing themes of forgotten peoples throughout human civilization. To understand Simeon is to understand how the Bible itself preserves both memory and mystery. The man Simeon was the second son of Jacob and Leah, born in the growing rivalry between Leah and Rachel for Jacob's affection. From the very beginning, Simeon's identity was intertwined with conflict. His name, derived from the Hebrew Shimon meaning to hear, reflected Leah's belief that God had heard her misery as the unloved wife and granted her another son. But what followed was not blessing, it was judgment. The most infamous event in Simeon's life came in the brutal episode of Shechem, when he and his brother Levi slaughtered an entire city in vengeance for the defilement of their sister Dinah. They tricked the men of Shechem into circumcision and then attacked them while they were weak. Jacob, their father, cursed their violence and warned that their inheritance would not be consolidated, but scattered. It was a prophecy that would haunt Simeon's descendants for centuries. By the time the Israelites emerged as a confederation of tribes, Simeon had grown in number, but not in power. During the wilderness census recorded in the book of Numbers, Simeon's tribe began with a strong presence of over 59,000 men of fighting age. Yet only a short generation later, their numbers plummeted to 22,000, making them one of the smallest tribes in Israel. Scholars have long debated this collapse. Many connect it to the scandal at Peor, when Israelites joined in Moabite idol worship and sexual immorality. The plague that followed killed thousands, and biblical tradition suggests that Simeon bore the brunt of this judgment. A Simonite leader, Zimri son of Salu, was publicly executed by Phinehas the priest for defying Moses in front of the congregation, signaling how deeply entangled the tribe was in that rebellion. From this moment on, Simeon's decline became permanent. When the land of Canaan was divided under Joshua, Simeon did not receive a distinct and fertile inheritance. Instead, they were given scattered towns and villages within the territory of Judah, almost as if their punishment had been sealed. Judah was strong and expansive, while Simeon was diminished and dependent. Over time, this arrangement ensured that Simeon lost its separate identity. They blended into Judah, their boundaries blurring until their name barely appeared in the historical records. By the time of the monarchy under David and Solomon, Simeon was rarely mentioned except in passing, a shadow of its once fiery beginnings. The shocking truth is that the Bible itself seems to conspire in their erasure. In the blessings of Moses recorded in Deuteronomy 33, every tribe of Israel receives a poetic word of destiny, except Simeon. The omission is glaring. Was this intentional, a divine silence meant to underline their judgment? Or had Simeon already been so thoroughly absorbed into Judah that they no longer stood as a distinct people? Even in the book of Revelation, where John speaks of the 144,000 sealed from the 12 tribes, Simeon's name is missing from some manuscripts, replaced by others. Their absence speaks loudly of a tribe that once was but no longer stood apart. Historically, what became of Simeon is a question tied to larger patterns of tribal disappearance in the ancient Near East. Just as some tribes of Israel would later be scattered by Assyria and become the so-called lost tribes, Simeon's absorption into Judah foreshadowed this fate. Yet, unlike the northern tribes who vanished through exile, Simeon disappeared through assimilation. Their story was not one of foreign conquest but of slow erasure, swallowed by their southern brother. This raises profound questions about how identity is preserved or destroyed. A tribe that once burned with violence and passion dissolved into anonymity, their bloodline preserved but their name lost. There is also an overlooked dimension to Simeon's legacy. Despite their fading, Simonites appear sporadically in later biblical texts. During the reign of Hezekiah, bands of Simonites migrated into Edom and Amalekite territory, seeking new land. This suggests that not all were absorbed into Judah. Some sought survival by moving outward. Yet, history records little of their fate. Rabbinic tradition occasionally remembered Simeon as an example of divine justice, a tribe reduced for its sins. Christian commentators often saw in their story a warning against zeal without righteousness, a fire that consumes itself. What shocks modern readers is not simply that a tribe vanished, but how deliberately the Bible frames this disappearance. Simeon began with fury and ended with silence. Their destiny was not exile, but erasure. In a sense, the tribe of Simeon embodies one of the Bible's most haunting themes, that sin unchecked can lead to the obliteration of identity itself. Just as individuals are remembered or forgotten by their actions, so entire peoples may be written into history or swallowed by silence. Simeon reminds us that history is not only about triumphs, but about what is lost in the shadows. When we read the Bible carefully, we discover that Simeon is not merely absent by accident. Their disappearance was foretold in Jacob's curse, accelerated by scandal, cemented in land allotments, and finally sealed by silence in sacred texts. They remain a ghost tribe, whose legacy is not power or kingship but a warning of what happens when fury and disobedience consume a people. What the Bible really says about the tribe of Simeon is not just shocking, it is tragic. They are the forgotten children of Israel, proof that history remembers those who preserve themselves, but it erases those who let their destinies slip away.